Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling AI responsibility. We're going deep on this NTT data report, the myth of responsible AI, it's called. And it's based on a survey of, get this, over 2,300 global decision makers, mostly C-suite level. So we're getting like right to the source of how companies are handling this whole AI responsibility thing. And our mission today is to uncover the gap between,
AI innovation.
and responsible development.
Yeah.
Especially as it relates to generative AI. Gen AI, as the cool kids call it.
Yeah.
You ready to dive in?
I'm ready. Absolutely. This report really highlights how fast AI and especially Gen AI are developing. But the frameworks for responsible use, they're just struggling to keep up. It's a crucial issue, especially considering all the potential risks.
We got security concerns, potential for wasted investment, and we got to make sure these advancements benefit everyone equally. But here's where it gets really interesting. Over 80% of organizations say leadership on responsible AI is super important, but then their actions often tell a totally different story. So what's the deal? Well, the report found this fascinating split in the C-suite. You've got 1/3 prioritizing innovation above all else, another third focused on responsibility, and then the rest are trying to balance the two. It's like this three-way tug of war, and no one's quite sure who's winning.
Okay, so three camps, different priorities. What's fueling these different approaches? Is it just company culture or is there something deeper going on?
Yeah, the report digs into the motivations behind each stance. So for those prioritizing innovation, it often boils down to intense pressure for rapid advancement and a fear of falling behind competitors, especially on the security front.
Yeah, that makes sense. You snooze, you lose, right?
Yeah.
Especially in tech. But what about the leaders who are really focused on responsibility? What's driving them?
Well, they often have clear direction from leadership, a preference for established approaches, or a strong need to adhere to existing guidelines and regulations. So they're not necessarily anti-innovation, but they're definitely proceeding with caution. So it's not that one side is right and the other is wrong. It's more about the potential dangers of
this misalignment. If everyone's rowing in different directions, how do you steer the ship right?
Exactly. That lack of alignment can be a recipe for disaster. You could end up wasting resources, missing out on opportunities, and even creating unintentional harm.
And I'm sure our listener is already thinking about how this all plays out in the real world. And the report highlights a really interesting contrast between companies that are just surviving and those that are thriving. Those top performers with high revenue growth and profit margins. What's their secret?
Here's the kicker. 81% of those high achievers prioritize balancing innovation and responsibility. Compared to only 60% of other organizations, they seem to have cracked the code, and the report suggests this balance is a key ingredient in their success.
So it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about doing the smart thing for your business. This raises a big question. What are these top performers doing that the others aren't? We've got to unpack that. Hold that thought. We'll dig into some concrete solutions from the report in a bit. But first, we need to address a potential blind spot that many companies are overlooking the workforce.
Yes, the people on the ground actually using and interacting with AI every single day. This is where things can get tricky.
Especially Gajato.
Right.
Gene AI becoming so accessible. I mean, it's one thing to have policies in place, but what about the everyday decisions people are making when they use these powerful tools?
That's exactly where the challenge lies. The report reveals that C-suite executives overwhelmingly see the lack of education on proper Gen AI use as a major barrier to responsible development.
Just like companies are handing out powerful tools without the instruction manual.
Right.
They're rushing to train employees on the how of using Gen AI, but neglecting the why and the potential consequences.
It's not just about knowing how to use the technology. It's about understanding the implications, both positive and negative, and making informed decisions in those gray areas where the answers aren't always clear-cut. It's like giving someone a high-powered sports car without teaching them the rules of the road or defensive driving. You're practically inviting disaster.
Exactly. It's all about empowering individuals to make responsible choices when interacting with AI.
Speaking of making responsible choices, the report doesn't just highlight the problems. It offers some potential solutions, too. NTT data outlines 4 key steps that organizations can take to bridge this responsibility gap. Are you ready to dive into those?
Absolutely. Let's start with the first step, which is embracing a responsible by design philosophy. It's about baking ethical considerations into AI development from the ground up, not treating it as an afterthought. We're talking about building systems that are inherently secure, inclusive, and fair. In fact, NTT Data has this working example they call responsible reinvention, which shows how to put this principle into action.
So it's not just a box to check for compliance. It's about weaving responsible AI into the very fabric of the company culture. Fascinating. Tell me more about this responsible reinvention approach. What does that look like in practice?
It's about shifting from a reactive to a proactive mindset. Instead of simply trying to mitigate harm after it occurs, they're designing systems with ethical considerations built in from the start. This involves things like using diverse data sets to train AI models, implementing rigorous bias testing, and even involving ethicists in the design process.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being intentional.
Yeah.
And anticipating potential pitfalls before they become problems. It sounds like a pretty comprehensive approach. What's the next step?
The next step is multi-level governance, which builds on this foundation of responsible design. It's about moving beyond basic legal compliance and taking a more proactive approach to managing risk. Think of it as building checks and balances into your AI systems where different groups within the company and even external stakeholders have a voice in shaping the ethical considerations of AI development.
So it's about broadening the circle of responsibility and making sure that ethical considerations are woven into every level.
Every level of decision-making. I like it. What's next on the list? The third step focuses on upskilling and appraising change. We all know GenAI is rapidly changing the workforce. So organizations need to equip their employees with the knowledge and tools to use it effectively and responsibly. It's not just about technical training. It's about fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptation as AI continues to evolve.
Right. It's about making sure employees can not only use the tools, but also navigate the ethical dilemmas that might arise. Training and education are absolutely crucial here. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The final step emphasizes global collaboration. AI is a global issue, and no single organization can tackle it alone. This is where cross-sector partnerships and shared standards come into play. We need a global conversation about AI responsibility to shape its development and ensure it benefits everyone.
It's about recognizing that this is a shared responsibility that requires collaboration across industries, governments, and even individuals. It's a big task, but it seems essential if we want to harness the power of AI for good. But where does the buck stop in all of this? Who's ultimately responsible for driving this change?
The report specifically calls out CEOs as key players in shaping a responsible AI future. They set the tone and culture for their organizations, and their actions have a ripple effect throughout the entire company.
So it's not just about issuing a memo or creating a task force. It's about leading by example and making responsible AI a core part of the company's DNA.
Precisely. And the report goes even further by outlining some specific to-dos for CEOs to guide their organizations towards responsible AI.
Okay, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. I'm all ears. What does the CEO to-do list look like?
First and foremost, CEOs need to walk the walk. They need to actively demonstrate their commitment to responsible AI by leading training sessions, communicating the why behind these changes, and making it clear that ethical considerations are not optional.
Actions speak louder than words, right? So it's about setting the tone. From the top down, what else is on the CEO's agenda?
Second, they need to guide their CIOs and CISOs to find that sweet spot where innovation and responsibility intersect. It's about balancing the need for rapid advancement with the need for security, ethical considerations, and a realistic time to market.
It's a balancing act for sure. What else, son? The CEO to-do list.
CEOs need to become vocal advocates for responsible AI, participating in industry conversations, pushing for global standards, and using their platform to influence positive change.
So it's about stepping up, taking a stand, and using their influence to shape the industry as a whole. What's the final item on the CEO checklist?
The last, but certainly not least item, is to foster a culture of open communication and collaboration. This means creating an environment where employees feel comfortable raising concerns, sharing feedback, and contributing to the development of responsible AI practices.
It's about building a culture of trust and transparency where everyone feels empowered to speak up and contribute to the conversation. But this is all pretty high level. Focusing on the C-suite and CEOs, what about the rest of us? Where do we fit into this equation?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll delve into deeper in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've established that leadership plays a huge role in shaping responsible AI,
Mm.
but it's not just about what's happening in the C-suite, right? What about the everyday interactions with AI that are becoming more and more common? Where does personal responsibility come in?
You're hitting on a really crucial point. We've talked about big picture strategies, but the rubber really meets the road in those daily interactions with AI. Think about it. Even seemingly mundane uses of Gen AI can raise some tricky questions.
Can you give me an example? I'm having trouble picturing what you mean.
Sure, imagine you're using Gen AI to write marketing copy and it whips up some catchy slogans. Great, right. But what if those slogans inadvertently play into existing stereotypes? Or what if you're using Gen AI to summarize research, but it misses a crucial nuance that could lead to a bad business decision?
Okay, now I see what you mean. It's easy to get caught up in the efficiency and creativity of Gen AI and forget that we still need to be critical thinkers.
Exactly. That's why education is so crucial. We need to go beyond teaching people how to use the tools and empower them to question the outputs, consider the sources of information, and think critically about the potential impact of their AI-assisted creations.
It's almost like we need a new kind of digital literacy, one that prepares us to navigate this AI-powered world with both skill and responsibility.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about individual responsibility either. The NTT data report really emphasizes that companies need to establish clear internal guidelines for Gen AI safety, covering everything from compliance and data privacy to ethical considerations and security protocols.
So it's about creating a framework that guides ethical AI development and use throughout the entire organization, not just leaving it up to individual employees to figure out on their own.
Exactly. And this framework needs to be a living document, something that evolves as the technology advances and new challenges arise. We're in uncharted territory here, and we need to be adaptable.
That makes me think about the potential for unintended consequences. We've all heard those stories about AI systems making decisions that defy logic or even discriminating against certain groups. How do we guard against that?
Those are valid concerns, and they highlight the importance of human oversight. We can't just blindly trust AI systems to make the right call, especially when those decisions have real-world consequences.
So it's about striking a balance,
Yeah.
right? Leveraging the power of AI, but retaining human control, especially when it comes to those big picture ethical considerations.
Absolutely. AI should be viewed as a tool that can enhance our capabilities, not replace our judgment. And this brings us back to the importance of leadership. The report makes it clear that a lack of clarity from leaders on responsible AI can create confusion and hinder progress.
It's like that old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If leaders aren't clear about their expectations for responsible AI use, it creates a vacuum where anything goes.
A very apt analogy. Leaders need to set a clear example, provide specific guidance, and empower their teams to make responsible decisions when using AI.
Now, the report also mentions the need for greater regulatory oversight. What role do you see governments playing in addressing the AI responsibility gap?
Governments have a crucial role to play in establishing clear guidelines and regulations for responsible AI development and use. It's a delicate balancing act, because they need to foster innovation while also protecting citizens from potential harm.
I imagine regulating a rapidly evolving technology like AI is like trying to hit a moving target. It's a constant game of catch-up.
It certainly is, but it's essential. Governments need to work closely with industry experts, researchers, and ethicists to develop frameworks that are both effective and adaptable to keep pace with the rapid advancement of AI.
So it's a collaborative effort involving everyone from lawmakers to developers to the people actually using these AI systems.
Exactly. And that brings us to an important question for our listener. You, as a consumer, are increasingly interacting with AI-powered products and services every day. Do you feel a responsibility to demand ethical AI from the companies you support?
That's a great question. It makes you think about the power of consumer choice. If enough people prioritize ethical AI when making purchasing decisions, wouldn't that push companies to up their game?
Absolutely. Consumers have a powerful voice. By supporting companies that prioritize responsible AI development and holding those that don't accountable, you can influence the market and encourage positive change.
So it's about voting with our wallets and our voices, making it clear that ethical AI matters to us.
Exactly. We need to become informed consumers demanding transparency from companies about how they're using AI and holding them to high ethical standards. You have the power to shape the future of AI.
Now, earlier we talked about those top-performing companies that seem to have cracked the code of balancing innovation and responsibility. The report actually highlights NTT Data's own approach as a potential model for others to follow. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. They call it responsible reinvention. And it's based on 6 core principles: sustainable development, human autonomy, fairness, and openness, security, privacy and communication, and co-creation.
Okay, 6 principles is a lot to unpack. Can you break those down for me?
Sure. Sustainable development means making sure that AI development aligns with environmental and social sustainability goals. Human autonomy emphasizes keeping humans in the loop, ensuring that AI systems don't undermine human control or decision-making.
So it's about using AI to enhance human capabilities, not replace them altogether.
Precisely. Fairness and openness means building AI systems that are free from bias and discrimination and that operate in a transparent way. Security focuses on protecting AI systems from cyber attacks and misuse. Privacy is about safeguarding personal data and using it ethically.
These principles are all interconnected, right? You
Yeah.
can't have fairness without transparency, and security is essential if you're going to protect privacy. It's all part of the same puzzle.
You got it. And finally, communication and co-creation emphasizes the importance of engaging with stakeholders throughout the AI development process. That means soliciting feedback, fostering collaboration, and building trust.
It sounds like a very holistic approach, taking into account all the different facets of responsible AI development. It's encouraging to see a company like NTT Data leading the charge and showing that it's possible to innovate responsibly.
It is, and hopefully their example will inspire other organizations to follow suit.
I think it's important to remember that the future of AI isn't predetermined. It's something that we're collectively shaping with every choice we make, every conversation we have, and every action we take.
That's a really powerful thought. And it leads us to a crucial question for our listener to consider. If you were at the helm of a company with access to cutting-edge AI, what would your first step be to ensure its responsible development and use?
That's a great question to ponder. It really challenges us to think critically about the role we all play in shaping the future of AI.
Mm.
As we've been digging into this report, it's really hit me that this whole responsibility gap, it isn't just a technological challenge, it's a human one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's often overlooked in all the talk about algorithms and regulations. But at the end of the day, it comes down to human choices, human values, and how we want to shape our future with this technology.
I see what you mean. We can create all the guidelines
Mhm.
and frameworks in the world,
Mhm.
but if people aren't using AI responsibly, it can still have negative consequences.
Exactly. And that's why this conversation about responsible AI is so important. It forces us to grapple with some really fundamental questions about ourselves. What do we consider fair? Where do we draw the line ethically? And who gets to decide?
Those are some pretty heavy questions, and I imagine there are no easy answers, especially when you consider how rapidly AI is evolving.
You're right, there are no simple solutions. But that's all the more reason to have these conversations now, to really think through the implications before it's too late.
It's like we're building the plane as we're flying it, right? We need to be constantly adjusting course and making sure we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, and it highlights the importance of adaptability and continuous learning in this field. We need to be willing to adjust our thinking and our approaches as the technology evolves.
Now, earlier we talked about how companies with high revenue growth and profit margins are more likely to prioritize balancing innovation and responsibility. Any thoughts on why that might be?
I think it speaks to the idea that ethical AI isn't just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. When companies prioritize responsible AI development, they build trust with their customers, attract and retain top talent, and mitigate risks that could damage their reputation. It's a win-win all around.
So it's not just about avoiding negative PR. It's about creating a sustainable and successful business model. That makes a lot of sense.
It does, and it makes you wonder why more companies aren't embracing this approach. Maybe it's a lack of awareness. Or maybe some leaders still view ethical AI as a constraint rather than an enabler.
Could be a bit of both.
Yeah.
But as more companies showcase
Really?
the benefits of AI, responsible AI development,
Yeah.
I think we'll see a shift in mindset.
I hope so, because the potential benefits are enormous, both for businesses and for society as a whole.
This has been such a fascinating
Yeah.
and thought-provoking conversation, I feel
But
like.
hey.
I've gained a whole new perspective on AI and
Yep.
its implications.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, the future of AI is not set in stone. It's something that we're all shaping together with the choices we make and the actions we take.
So let's choose wisely, act responsibly, and continue this important conversation. about how to ensure AI benefits all of humanity.
Well said. And for our listeners, if you want to delve deeper into NTT Data's insights and recommendations, be sure to check out their Global Gen AI report. It's linked in the show notes.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to learn more about this critical topic. And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a future where AI empowers us all.